Luke 21, starting in verse 5. And while some were speaking of the temple, how it was adorned with noble stones and offerings, he said, "As for these things that you see, the days will come when there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." And they asked him, "Teacher, when will these things be, and what will be the sign when these things are about to take place?" And he said, "See that you are not led astray, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am he,' and the time is at hand. Do not go after them. And when you hear of wars and tumults, do not be afraid, for these things must first take place, but the end will not be at once." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, and in various places famines and pestilences, and there will be terrors and great signs from heaven. But before all this, they will lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors for my name's sake. This will be your opportunity to bear witness. Settle it therefore in your minds, not to meditate beforehand how to answer, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which none of your adversaries will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be delivered up even by parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and some of you they will put to death. You will be hated by all for my name's sake, but not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance you will gain your lives. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation has come near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let those who are inside the city depart, and let not those who are out in the country enter it. For these are days of vengeance, to fulfill all that is written. Alas, for women who are pregnant, and for those who are nursing infants in those days, for there will be great distress upon the earth, and wrath against the people. They will fall by the edge of the sword, and be led captive among all the nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles are fulfilled. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Pastor?
Bring the book.
Louise Lively, she says, "Every time you get up there and cry, you scare me." What's wrong now? These are tears of joy, of gratitude, of thanksgiving. Sometimes I cry because of difficulties. It's good. I've never been like David was when Ziklag and they came back, and remember everybody and his troops were gonna, "It's your fault, David. Where's our wives?" And we went up there and they were ready to stone him. And it says he strengthened himself in the Lord. So sometimes it's good to just drive ourselves back to the Lord. Sometimes I cry of tears of repentance. It's my own sin, my own foolishness. But sometimes it's tears of joy. I had the privilege of doing the wedding ceremony for both my sons. Some of you were there for Matthew. And he said, "Dad, don't you cry." I said, "I will try not to, son." He says, "Because if you cry, I'm going to cry. And if I cry, Lauren's going to cry. You're going to mess up the whole thing." I said, "Well, son, I will do my best." I got up there. I got a little choked. Just had to pause, take a deep breath, keep going, and I look at over there, and here's my oldest son. He's the stoic one. He never cries, hardly ever. And he's bawling like a baby. I just go, wow. So I may or may not get to I do have a sermon prepared, but this is going to be, I'm going to label it Gratias Tibi Ago. Actually, I need to put it in the plural, Gratias Vobis Ago, which means what? Thank you. There's a Latin student Ken remembers. And how about amabote? That's okay. That's a little shaky there to put you on the spot like that. But it means gratias is grace, vobis to you, ago I lead. But it's become an idiom, both in Greek and in Latin. It means I give thanks to you. I thank you. First of all, I give thanks to God. A couple of things triggered this in my life past couple of weeks. When we were notified that our insurance policy was not going to be renewed and terminated, and the difficulty trying to find someone to insure us was not an easy task. Mrs. Frazier is a part-time secretary, and we just keep dumping different hats on her to wear. And she goes, my neck is getting heavy from all these hats you're putting on me. And she really is the administrative queen for GBC. And the hours for a part-time, she past couple of weeks. And then when I asked you to pray, and I forgot to meet with several of the guys on Tuesday evening after they put their kids down to bed, those who are younger and have had some Greek, and we're translating through Mark. And Jager's one of those. And he came up to me, he goes, that's what I do. He does church insurance with Guidestone. Did I get guidestone.org? So he came in on a Monday and kind of walked us through, and we go, boy, can we pull this off this fast? So it went down. To Friday at the last minute, Friday afternoon, I told the elders, I'm going to DocuSign this. They had all the documents. You would not believe how much stuff to go through. So each one of them has 39 different sections, and you have to be on the internet. You click on it, and it'll take you to a link, and it gives you all the pages to work through. And I thought, I had a hard time working through that, let alone all the elders. So I just kind of, and I said, guys, if you don't want me to do this, let me know. And they go, do it. So, and then Melanie came back in on Friday afternoon. We kind of finished the final questions. And why I'm thanking you is I asked you to pray. Several of you came up to me and said, we are praying. I want to thank you for being a praying congregation. I have no doubt in my mind that God hears and answers your prayers and my prayers as well. I did not know that this was going to take place. I mean, I wouldn't want my home to be uninsured. And would I want the church and the facilities here to be uninsured? I did not. So at the last minute, kind of D-Day, we're now insured. They'll send somebody out and check out. And the pool as well is insured. Now, before we open the pool again, it's usually open from sometime in May through September, October, depends upon how many Chicago people can go out there in the cold water. but we'll have some more restrictions we'll have to let you know about at that time. But thank you for praying. And then I got, they're not here this morning. I'm thankful. I hope I don't embarrass them. I got a text from Bonnie Bloza. Last week, I completed the 2 years of treatment for my non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Terry and I give glory to God for how effective the treatments have been. Consequently, I do not have the stamina I once had, so regrettably, I will not be able to continue to take care of the church library. I recently updated the library database on Google Drive. I'm just saying that to how I started reflecting upon how many people have served here with no pay. If you would, when we started, I ran out of room for books. I remember when we first built that section, Bill Hard said, "We're going to put a shower in there for you." I go, "No, don't put a shower in there for me." I said, I need bookshelves. He goes, "You got enough bookshelves." I go, "No, I'm going to fill them eventually." And so I did now up there, started the library. She cataloged all those. If you go up there, you'll see all of them indexed. You check out cards. The hours that she has spent doing that behind the scenes, and many of you don't know, and other people of you that have served as well. Louise Lively is not here this morning. Many of you, when we have memorial services, funerals, and meals that need to be prepared, and somebody, I don't even know who's all responsible for it. You get it done. My in-laws were dying. First, they were over there at Bonham in that care facility. I show up to check on them. And here's some of you. I never asked you to be there. Finally, my father-in-law went to heaven. My mother-in-law is right over there in the one by TMC, and I go in to see her, and sometimes I come in, and there's some of you in there. Never asked you to be there, but you see the importance of ministering, and I just say to myself, to all of you who work behind the scenes, God knows it. God knows it, and I just want to thank you this morning. Where's Kevin at? He's back. So, oh, there you are, right back there. Guys like Kevin, you have no idea how many hours Kevin has spent with the sound system, getting stuff up through there, redoing it. Sometimes I'm over here I remember recently I was on a Saturday, it was late, and I'm ready to go home, and here's Kevin and Christian up there work. I just go, I'm glad you guys know what you're doing, because I sure don't. And to get things going like there. The elders and the deacons who serve, their payday is not here upon planet Earth. They have not received a dime financially for their services and the things that go on behind the scene. Now I want to talk about finances to some extent. If you will look in the bulletin, you will see that the the financial report there, we just put the giving and the expenses. When we first began, it was 1995, and I was teaching at Believers Chapel in Dallas, and a call came down, and they wanted to start a work up here. At least it was reformed in its soteriology, and they referred them to me. I said, come down, sit in on a class that I'm teaching, come over to my house in Mesquite, and we'll see if we agree in theology. Because if we don't agree in theology on the basics, it's not going to work. And so they came down, we did, and we drove back and forth. We first started at the Findlay Cultural Center, and boy, it was expensive. I'm doing this tongue in cheek. From 9 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they charged us $35 to rent that facility. Utilities, janitorial fees, everything. Finally, we started to grow there, and we didn't have any place for classrooms. So what did Melcid Logic do with some others? They took PVC pipe and glued it together and put canvas over. We had to take it down after every one. And then I remember Roger Bateman. It was about 2000. You came by. I think you were serving as a deacon at that time, and said, there's a piece of property up here for sale, and you guys ought to consider it. We go, oh, okay, we'll consider it. It was the Lutheran Church was here, but they were buying the property down there, and they needed to sell this one. And I think it was, they were asking $220,000. And we just looked at that, and we didn't have $220,000, but we had enough for a down payment, and I just thought, buy it. And Roger goes, no, I deal in real estate. You counter, you make an offer. We countered, if I recall correctly, countered 200, and they go, fine, take it. So we had to have the property evaluated for insurance, and they said at $1.3 million. I'm just stunned. I'm stunned at the kindness of God for us. And here's how we have operated in our finances. Now, when we bought this property in 2000, we knew we did not have enough if we didn't grow that year. We kept back enough a year to make the mortgage payments, but if we didn't grow, we're in trouble. Came back to the end of that year, and it was getting pretty thin. Bill Gray, at that time, he took care of all the finances for us, and sometimes I said, no, if we don't have enough money to pay the bills, then I don't want a check. I do not want a reputation of a church that does not pay its bills. So it was a little lean, and but we grew by the end of the year. Any loss I had taken that the guys gave back to me, we made it through there. Now here's how we function financially. If I were to ask you, what are the two great sins of pastors that disqualify them? I think they'd come right to your mind. Yeah, there it is. Porneia, which is sexual immorality. And the second one, it's a Greek word, pleonexia, means greed, covetousness. And so at the very beginning, I said, guys, I don't want my name on anything. I don't want to be able to write checks. I don't want to know who gives what. Particularly, sometimes I'm aware of big gifts that are given, and we have to deal with those, but I don't want my name on there. I don't want that temptation. I want to be squeaky clean in this, and the guys have done this, and so every year for the past 30 years, except for 1 year, we have ended in the black. The 1 year that we did not was because we had to redo the culverts out there, and we redid the bathhouse in the same year, and that was about 70,000, and that left us, I think, about 7,000 in the red for that year. But every year we have ended in the black, and instead of raising salaries or spending more money, we have set that aside for savings. So when I wasn't concerned about how we were going to pay for the insurance policy, it went up over 400%. What I was concerned about was where we're going to get it done in time. And your prayers made a difference. So I thank you. And then I got another email. I won't embarrass the person, and said, would it be possible to get a copy of our monthly prayer sheet? You know, that tells me you're praying people. All the elders are responsible for overseeing the finances. The deacons, we meet for them roughly quarterly, and they get a copy of it as well. About half of our budget is payroll. I'm full-time. We have added Dylan as full-time, although we have tried to limit his responsibilities until he gets his dissertation done. He is not an elder. We haven't appointed him one. We call him a teaching, shepherding assistant. Then we added Jerry, and when Jerry had cancer and he decided, his sons told him, Dad, I think you need to resign over there in the treatments and et cetera. He was an elder. I said, Jerry, would you consider coming on staff with us, not just an elder? He goes, I don't want to work full time. I said, would you consider part-time? So we took Jerry on part-time, and our past, the things that would slip through the cracks, because I just don't have the time to do everything. Visiting people, hospitals, and so Jerry has taken that over. And then I got a call a few weeks back, and my son's daughter-in-laws, Bill and Karen Gray, they wanted to go to a sushi place down in Irving, this famous, and I'm not a big sushi eater, but anyway, we were down there, got a call that Jerry was in trouble. Jerry came inches from going home to heaven. Brother, I'm so thankful you're still with us. I'm thankful you're getting better. Hang in there. And Linda, thank you for what a godly helper you have been. But our shepherding has skyrocketed through Jerry and Linda. Then we've added Trevor part-time, and without Mrs. Fraser, I think I'd quit with all the things that she does administratively. It's just a little summary of how we began, where we're at, and I am so thankful to be here at Grace Bible Church. When I was in seminary, I initially went there and was going to go 1 year and thought I'd go off to medical school. 1 year turned into 4. That's where I met Mana. And when I finished, what am I going to do? The last thing I want to do is be a pastor. Pastor's got to deal with problems. I was trained to teach and to preach. And now I look back and I go, I ought to pay these people to be able to be a shepherd here. Now, please don't take me literally. But that's my attitude. It's such a privilege to be able to be here and to be with you. I thank God for you. Prayer has become such a more important part of my life. People that don't know work behind the scenes, what Pat Wallace and Richard Wilson did, and coming over and taking things and taking care of things, never getting paid for. Joe Spain heading up our security team, others. So I'm going to end with this. It's in my office. It's just one of many things that you have given to me that remind me how precious you are to me. Now, what do you think this is a picture of? Yeah, it's the four friends who are lowering that crippled guy, hacked a hole in the roof, lowered him down, and they're all, the Pharisees and Sadducees are sitting down there getting dust on their heads, and they're getting angry. And remember, Jesus said, your sins are forgiven you. Your sins are forgiven you. And I've mentioned several times friends like this. So somebody called me up that had Latin and said, would you tell me how to say friends like these in Latin? I showed it to Alan. Alan's taught Latin. And he goes, well, at least you got the nominative and the predicate nominative in the right case. So it means amici sicut he, friends like these. I'm blessed to have friends like these as I look out. You're part of my church family. I've made enough mistakes, enough errors, but truly, Mana, thank you for being my wife. I can't do what I'm doing without my wife. If my home is not right, then everything else I do is a sham. So this took a little longer than I thought this morning, but I just wanted to give you an update where we're at, how the Lord has blessed us, and we have saved sufficiently. So when things come up like benevolence, our missionaries are in trouble, we now have the funds that we didn't have at that time to help them out. So I'm going to conclude this way. I'll just save off Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21 till next week. I want you to open your Bibles to the end of Ephesians. I'm going to pick up in chapter 6 and read down through about verse 9. And then we'll sing a hymn unscheduled, and then we'll go to the Lord's table. It's already talked about husbands and wives and the priority of that relationship. Children, be obedient to your parents. How? In the Lord. Why? Because this is dikaios. This is right. This is just. This is the divine blueprint to have harmony in the home. Honor. These are present imperatives. They don't go away. These are ongoing commands. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise. Well, it's not the first commandment. It's the first commandment that has a promise to it. Why? So that it might be well for you and you will be long-lived upon the earth. Now, this is a general statement. It's not a guarantee you're going to live to be 90 or 95, but this is the divine blueprint. That's for children. Now we go to in the home, and fathers, some translate this parents, but it is the word for pater, because fathers are supposed to be the head in their home. And fathers, stop provoking your children to wrath. In other words, I'm overbearing. Sometimes I'm underbearing. I came up with some little words that help me when I pray for you. Here's what dads ought to be in the home. Don't be tyrants or toads. Toads means you're passive. But you're to be godly shepherds. You're to be godly leaders. You say the buck stops here. You take responsibility for leading that home in godliness. And I pray for moms, for you. Don't be domineering or a doormat. Some of you have no problem with being not a doormat, but maybe a little on the domineering side. I'm thankful for a wife who is submissive to me. I asked her recently, do you know any area that we disagree in theology? She said, no, I don't. But the applications may be a little bit different at times. So here it is. Fathers, don't provoke your children to wrath, but nourish them, ektrepho them. In Paideia, that word means discipline, training, and the nouthesia, the counsel of the Lord. Then it goes to slave-master relationship. Slave, obey your Lord, your masters, according to fear, according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in sincerity of your heart as to Christ, not with eye service, as men pleasers, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God out of the soul, inner man, with a good attitude, serving as to the Lord and not to men. And here it is. This sticks with me. I'm going to finish with this. Knowing that each one, whatever good he should do, this he will obtain back from the Lord, whether slave or free. You may not give thanks. We may not recognize you giving thanks, but any good thing you do toward the Lord, it doesn't go unmissed. Your payday is still ahead of you. We're headed to heaven. And I just want to say thank you again to folks that know that. What a privilege, honor, responsibility to be one of the shepherds here at Grace Bible Church. Thank you. Now, to make the transition to the Lord's table, Jacob, I'm going to hit you on the spot. Come back and lead us in Amazing Grace. If Mana, if you would play the orchestra, or they can just stay seated. We'll just sing the first and the last as transition to the Lord's table. And thank you, elders and deacons, for serving. I remember when Tom first became an elder, and Adele called my wife and goes, "Is there something wrong?" It said, "Tom isn't home yet." I think it was 10 or 10:30 at night. And said, "No, they're still over there in a meeting." Now, I've gotten a little bit better at it. We meet once a month, 5:30, try and have it done by 8:30. And if not, there's a lot of Zoom and ad hoc meetings, etc. So thank you, whether you serve publicly and people recognize it or not. If you pray, you are serving to God. Thank you.